Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel taking out another key Iranian official today, this time the intelligence minister. The news comes after more powerful Israeli strikes, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says more surprises are on the way. We're going to bring you the story reporting from Jerusalem. The devastating economic and energy crisis in Cuba. We're going to bring you a look at why, after 67 years, Cubans are desperately hoping for an end to communist rule. The power of an online realm known as the Manosphere, its content aimed at men. We're going to hear what's being said and why some of it could be good and some can be spiritually dangerous. The rise of dangerous and violent anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom. It's gotten so bad, some in Washington have considered granting asylum to British Jews. We're going to bring you the story from London and a look at how CBN is helping Christians in Iran. All those stories and more right now on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
It is Wednesday, the 18th of March, going to begin this half hour in the Middle East, where Israel has eliminated another top Iranian official, the intelligence minister, after taking out Iran's de facto leader in an airstrike Monday. CBN Middle East correspondent Paul Petitte brings us the story. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
The Israeli Prime Minister's office shares this photo showing the moment Benjamin Netanyahu ordered Monday's airstrike that killed the besieged commander, along with Iran's de facto leader Ali Larijani.
He was in charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people.
Netanyahu says the deadly precision airstrikes prove Israel is watching Iran, and more surprises are on the way. With Israeli drones targeting police and besieged checkpoints in Tehran, he encouraged Iranian citizens to celebrate their new year.
This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above.
Iran's top diplomat is promising retaliation. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi posted on X that there will be a wave of global repercussions, regardless of wealth, faith, or race. Overnight, an Iranian cluster bomb hit Tel Aviv, killing 2 people. In Washington, the nation's top counterterrorism official caused a stir when he resigned in protest, saying Iran posed no imminent threat and the U.S. was drawn into the war by Israel.
I had access to just about everything. And how you could come to the conclusion that the Israelis did it and there was no imminent threat here? Really?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
Trump also shared criticism of NATO and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer for not stepping up to help the Strait of Hormuz open. Pointing to a bust of legendary British leader Winston Churchill, the president said,
"You know, unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill."
The U.S. is now dropping 5,000 bombs along the straits, hitting missile sites that target shipping. As the war moves into day 19, the IDF is taking down buildings in Lebanon, reportedly used for terrorist operations.
Mr. Prime Minister, I want to...
In the information war, Ambassador Mike Huckabee posts a new video showing him walking with Netanyahu to counter a barrage of AI-generated images claiming the prime minister is dead, and Iranian attacks have leveled Israel.
What's going on right now, Paul, is psychological warfare. And what's being tested right now, if it works, will be used all around the world and will make the entire world more unsafe.
With the war still going on, President Trump has canceled an upcoming trip to China and meeting with President Xi Jinping. But he says with Iran's Air Force and Navy destroyed and missile capabilities decimated, Iran is no longer the bully of the Mideast.
But we're not ready to leave yet, but we'll be leaving in the near future. We'll be leaving in pretty much the very near future. But right now, they've been decimated from every standpoint.
And Paul Petitte joins us right now to give us more from Jerusalem. So, Paul, what more can you tell us about Israel taking out the Iranian intelligence minister, and why is this important?
From Ismail Khatib was appointed intelligence minister back in 2021. Now, Iran International reported that he was considered especially close to the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Now, in November, before the outbreak of the mass protests in the Islamic Republic, Petitte warned conditions for the emergence of public discontent, and he told a Security Council meeting that the enemy is trying to harm the supreme leader. So, liken it to taking out the head of the American CIA, the same impact now being felt in Iran.
What is Iran saying about the deaths of some of their senior officials from Israel and U.S. strikes?
Yeah, according to Iran's foreign minister, Iran's claiming resolve, saying its political system remains unaffected by the military strikes and the assassination of senior officials as well. Now, specific to the elimination of Laranjani, this is the foreign minister, told Al Jazeera that the Islamic Republic remains intact. Iran has a strong political structure with established political, economic, and social institutions. He also said that the presence or the absence of a single individual does not affect this structure. So it's our understanding that Iran is now unleashing a new crackdown on its citizens, and that's what's happening right now.
Iran is now reportedly unleashing a new crackdown on its citizens, you said. What's to head off an uprising? What do you know?
Yeah, let's talk about that. This threat is going on with protesters right now in Iran, even though the U.S. and Israeli is bombarding raids and they shatter the headquarters as well as the command post of Iran's police. Iranians say that their security forces are using fear to keep a tight grip on the streets there. That means arming men riding around on motorcycles, brandishing their weapons to intimidate people, particularly at night when city dwellers rarely leave their homes. The men usually wear plain clothes and with their faces covered. They also have set up a network of security checkpoints around the cities, such as Tehran, where they routinely stop and then search for cars.
Paul, what can you tell us about the resignation of Trump counterterrorism official Joe Kent?
Yeah, the backlash is coming swiftly, along with the support for him as well. Now, remember, Ken, he failed twice in his congressional bid, and Democrats on the Intelligence Committee, they tried to block his appointment, and he was also labeled a white nationalist as well as even a Nazi for his support of January 9th protesters. Now, of course, he's the new darling of the liberals, and you heard what Trump and Bongino both had to say. We're also hearing from Trump's former deputy chief of staff, and he says, quote, Kent is a crazed egomaniac who was often at the center of national security leaks while rarely producing any actual work. He went on to say that, he spent all of his time working to subvert the chain of command and undermine the president of the United States. He also just wanted to make a splash, he says, before getting canned. What a loser, end quote. Now, the one certainty here is that, Ephraim, likely you will see a lot of Kent coming up on CNN and MSNBC.
Before we let you go, any reaction in Israel to the report in the New York Post, the new supreme leader of Iran is gay?
Yeah, seems a bit far-fetched, but according to the New York Post, President Trump was briefed that Mojtaba Khamenei might be gay. It also could indicate why supporters have been circulating, say that his father felt that he was unfit to be the supreme ruler. Now, in these briefings, he's saying this is not misinformation to try to dissuade what's going on in Iran. These are actually briefs coming from intelligence officials.
All right, Paul Petitte reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your insight and analysis today. I want to turn now to a story a bit closer to the United States. Cuba's crumbling power grid has plunged the island into an energy and economic crisis. Monday, a nationwide blackout thrust nearly 11 million into darkness, compounding years of hardship. After 67 years of communist rule, Gary Lane reports now that many Cubans are desperate for change.
Pro-democracy protests are erupting as the world watches on social media. This isn't Iran, though it's happening in Cuba. In the streets, people are chanting, "Long live Trump," and setting fire to Communist Party headquarters. Cubans have reached their limit, tired of empty store shelves and homes left in the dark.
It will be 2 or 3 days without electricity, and what little we have to eat spoils. Nobody says anything, and nobody has answers for anything.
Cuba has depended on Venezuelan oil just to keep the lights on. The U.S. stopped those shipments in January, causing the power grid to fall apart. Now, blackouts are sweeping across the island. Recently, at the Shield of the Americas summit in Florida, President Trump spoke about remarkable changes in Venezuela and added he hopes to see the same happen in Cuba.
They're very much at the end of the line. They have no money, they have no oil, they have a bad philosophy, they have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time.
In the Oval Office Monday, Trump shared about what might be ahead for Cuba.
Whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
Cuban leader Miguel Díaz-Canel admits he's talking with the U.S., trying to find a way forward between the two countries. While the oil embargo has pushed him to the table, Díaz-Canel still sides with America's enemies. When the Ayatollah Khamenei died, he quickly visited the Iranian embassy in Havana, signing the guest book and offering condolences to his Islamist ally. Even though the Marxist government remains hostile to the United States, Cliff May, president of the Foundation for Defensive Democracies, explains how the Venezuela model could be used in Cuba.
Nicolas Maduro is in a jail cell in Brooklyn, New York. His number two, Delcy Rodriguez, she is running things. Is she a Marxist? Absolutely. Is she more pliable? I think she is, because Trump has communicated to her, look, if you're cooperating with us, that will be very helpful. If not, there probably are other jail cells I can find for you in Brooklyn, New York.
Unlike Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, it looks like Miguel Díaz-Canel of Cuba won't be facing a jail cell anytime soon. Still, with political and economic pressures mounting, more protesters are likely to take to the streets. That could be the first step toward Cuba Libre, a free Cuba in the days ahead. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Coming up, Jewish businesses under siege, Jews getting attacked in the streets and banned from attending soccer matches. The explosive spread of anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom has Washington considering granting British Jews asylum in the United States. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch. In Great Britain, Jews face rapidly rising anti-Semitism and discrimination. The situation is so dire, there's talk in Washington of granting British Jews asylum in the United States. CBN News senior reporter Dale Hurd brings us the story, a first-hand look from London.
Jewish businesses under siege by mobs. Jews attacked in the streets and forced to meet in secret or under tight security. This isn't Nazi Germany. It only reminds some people of Nazi Germany. It's Great Britain, once a safe haven for Jews, and not anymore. When it was announced a few weeks ago that the White House might offer asylum to British Jews, some thought it was a silly idea. The leader of Britain's campaign against anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter, does not.
There was a time when that would have seemed very far-fetched, but we are now living in a time when British Jews are extremely worried about their future.
Shop for kosher food in London and you might see these fake price tags activists are putting on products, saying your purchase helps support genocide. Walk down the street looking Jewish, and if you're not attacked like this man, you might have to walk past one of these billboards condemning the Zionist occupation. Or you might have a swastika painted on your house.
On the way to go to shul, we turned around to discover that some cowards visited our home on Friday night and decorated it.
The anti-Semitism here is horrifying. It reminds me of the early 1930s.
Been getting nightmares about terrorist attacks.
A trend that was already evident before October 7th has simply metastasized out of control. We have rampant Islamist and leftist extremism in the UK, and perhaps more worrying still, we have authorities which are failing to do anything about it, or if they are acting, it's only acting to appease the extremists.
Falter says the British government has not cracked down on dangerous terrorist groups that are operating in the United Kingdom.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Houthis. I mean, this is the kind of craziness that Britain has subjected its citizens to.
The United Arab Emirates, itself a Muslim kingdom, believes British colleges are now so infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood that it will no longer pay for its students who attend universities here, fearing it could radicalize them. When Jewish college student Tali Smuss began her freshman year at King's College in London, she logged on to a group for her English major, and the discussion was about educating Zionists.
As the only Jewish person on my course, I asked them why they thought the Zionists need an education. And they started like a whole tirade against me, like, is there a Zionist on this group chat? And then they decided to threaten me. They decided to say that if I dare to interrupt the lecture again, they should pick me up and band together and carry me out.
And when she took the matter to a college official,
she tells me, maybe you should try to understand why they're treating you this way.
Gaza, Gaza, make us proud! Put those lions in the ground!
British kids who are going to be our next leaders are being radicalized into a way of thinking that is so fundamentally un-British that it is just unrecognizable. And it is dangerous.
Yael Cohen Rothschild, a Sephardic Jew studying at Cardiff Metropolitan University in Wales, found blood smeared on her door and on an Israeli flag. In a second incident, someone wrote Judah, German for Jew, on her door.
We're telling me, hide your Magen David, take down your mezuzah, like nothing will happen if you don't make it obvious that you're Jewish. Like even now I'm coordinating with my university to have someone escort me on and off campus, because that's literally how unsafe I felt.
Yael is considering moving to Israel. We asked Jewish journalist David Collier, who receives regular death threats because he writes about anti-Semitism, if he would seek asylum in the U.S. if it was offered.
Where's my suitcase? I'll be honest. I mean, I would imagine that if it was serious, I would imagine there will be a lot of takers.
Very few British Jews now believe the situation here will improve. 2/3 have said they don't believe they have a future in Britain. And now their options are to either deal with the danger they face or leave.
It's becoming much harder to believe in a future where I and my family will be safe.
Neither of my children will be here in 10 years' time. I can tell you that straight off, and we'll be gone as well.
After the Manchester synagogue attack last year, Prime Minister Keir Starmer promised to do whatever it takes to crack down on anti-Semitism. However, polling shows very few British Jews think the government is doing enough, and most here fear it's only a matter of time before the next terror attack against Jews.
Thankfully, we live in an era where there is one place that any Jew in the world can go to, which is Israel.
Anti-Semitism is also rising in the U.S. However, Falter believes at least some British Jews would consider asylum in the United States if it was offered. Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
Still ahead, a look inside what's called the Manosphere, why young men identify with the online trend so much and how it can be dangerous. We're going to bring you the story when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch. It is called the Manosphere, talk and information on the internet aimed at men. It's reshaping today's politics and drawing young men in droves. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody takes a closer look at this phenomenon.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
You have likely heard the term and possibly wondered what exactly is this manosphere. Well, in short, think of it like an online man cave where guys hang out and talk about everything from sports to money, fitness, dating, and yes, politics.
There are so many aspects to the manosphere. There's no one sort of manosphere anymore.
Dr. Monica McDermott wrote the book Masculinity in American Politics and found one rising substantial tentacle, and it's a dangerous one.
There are podcasts that are out there just to blame women, and that's one very negative aspect of the manosphere.
If you surf its menu of podcasts, you will quickly encounter some of the harsh vitriol.
When you're around women all the time,
and you get girls, you start to quickly realize how useless they are.
Women by nature are mentally chaotic and mentally ill.
I grew up when men are talking. You don't interrupt, men are talking. It's the man's table, men are talking.
Proponents of this thinking include names like Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, Nick Fuentes, and Sneeko, just to name a few. Shane Winnings with the Christian men's group Promise Keepers believes men should lead, although not that way.
We do need Christian men who are able to flip that switch and be aggressive and show masculinity and dominance when needed, but they also need to be able to turn it off and be, present for their families, be tender, be emotionally supportive and caring of their wives and children and so forth.
Not all of these podcasts are over the top. Some hosts, like Jordan Peterson, take more of a psychological approach on how traditional masculinity is key to an orderly society. While Joe Rogan's podcast is definitely unfiltered, it can also be serious and conversational. Others push a mix of unfiltered, often raunchy bro culture conversation that leaves God out of the equation.
Anyone who has some masculine characteristics and some charisma and ability to talk is popular on social media and a podcast. And if they're not rooted in Christian values, all we're going to have is a bunch of weightlifting, meat-eating, bearded men with no godly principles. And we actually will become toxic as men.
This manosphere all started as the men's rights movement in the late 1970s, which pushed the idea that men are the oppressed group. It essentially served as a counter to the era's second wave of feminism. A few decades and technological advances later, it morphed from forums and chat rooms into a major influential online community.
The rise of rights of women, the rise of rights of minority groups, things like that have threatened the position, the sort of dominant position that men have always experienced in American culture. And so the men themselves, see that as a threat, and in some ways, understandably so.
This is your last chance. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
This phenomenon even has its own jargon. There's the red pill and the blue pill. Taking the red pill means you've awakened to the truth of men being the oppressed gender. If you've taken the blue pill, that means you've been conditioned and tricked into believing mainstream beliefs about gender and feminism. It also invokes Jesus' name at times.
If you're persecuted for the sake of the truth, which is synonymous with Jesus, then that's a very good thing.
The problem is, those same hosts also make crude remarks about women. Shane Winnings worries immature young Christian men are vulnerable to it.
A lot of Christians aren't in their Bible. They're just being spoon-fed on social media. A lot don't even go to church. And so I'm not surprised that they're just following any charismatic right-wing person who is, saying Jesus Christ. Jesus said it. How can fresh water and salt water come from the same spring? It's not possible. So we have to do a better job of, policing up ourselves, our own party, so that we don't look like hypocrites.
As for President Trump, he has jumped feet first into the manosphere.
Now, this is cool. It's very good. I've never even seen you in a car before. Wow.
During the 2024 campaign, he appeared with influencers Aiden Ross, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, and the Nelk Boys, all powerful voices on platforms attracted to Trump's promotion of strength and the forgotten man that's projected in politically incorrect and irreverent language.
Trump was always appealing, even in his earliest campaigns, to these sort of downtrodden, let's say, men, working class men, men who felt threatened by all kinds of other forces in society. The manosphere is there for a reason. It's there to fill a need that some American men have. And if you want to appeal to those men, you've got to go where they are.
Ultimately, though, men young and old need to seek a different voice.
The only thing that you can know to be true is Christ and the Word of God. And so spend more time in that than listening to podcasters. Discernment is what I would say is like the word of 2026. Pray to God for discernment, to know good from evil, to know right from wrong, to have wisdom, because there's a million voices out there and I don't want to be following the wrong one. So I'm going to make sure I spend more time in the Word than on YouTube this year.
Because true manhood only resides in the sphere of the Bible. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, how CBN is helping isolated Christians in Iran. We're going to bring you a look right after this. CBN's Hearts for Iran is supporting isolated believers in the country. Moabit Virtual Church is accessible on Moabit Satellite TV. It is a weekly fellowship gathering for those without access to in-person events. Church leaders receive weekly one-on-one mentoring tailored to their ministry challenges. It also provides practical training in church planting, leadership development, and self-study resources. Prayer remains central to this discipleship journey, strengthening leaders spiritually and uniting them in faith. These leaders have planted house and virtual churches in Iran, Turkey, Europe, and Canada. You can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by simply going to cbn.com/international. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is actually two: deliverance and discipleship. Know this, the two go hand in hand. Deliverance without discipleship can be detrimental to your faith walk. God delivers, and He calls each of us to disciple others into freedom. Get to work and help your fellow man. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our news programs online at cbnnews.com. You can also find them on YouTube. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. The address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, and you know that is formerly known as Twitter. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, God bless. Thank you for watching.